Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. We're a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. And Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. Our promise is to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands and waters of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. In a similar fashion, we acknowledge how much of what we know in this country today, including our culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labor and sacrifice, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and resulting impacts that can still be felt and witnessed today. Please join me for our opening song, Woke Up This Morning. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Talking with my mind, stayed on spirit. Well, I'm walking and talking with my mind, stayed on spirit. Walking and talking with my mind, stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. All day long, I keep my mind stayed on spirit. Well, all day long, I keep my mind stayed on spirit. All day long, I keep my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Gonna come up.
Well, good morning. Today's meditation is going to be a tad bit different. We discussed this during our core council meeting the other night and decided to do a meditation around what I spoke about last week. It's about carrying the doubt in the community. And so I'm just going to invite everybody to get nice and comfortable, wiggle around, find the spot where you can get as comfortable as possible and allow yourself to release anything that has come before this moment, any worries, woes, frustrations, anything that may hold you back from allowing yourself to be comfortable, to be free. And so with that, I just invite us to take some three nice, deep cleansing breaths. And so we'll take one in, nice deep breath in. And release. Nice deep breath in. And you're holding it. And release. One more nice deep breath in. And release. And as we have been discussing doubt this week, or this month, I mean, we're going to do a little introspective to go in. Just going to invite us to go in and to name that doubt that you or the community might be holding. Just allow spirit to let it be, and don't criticize or judge it. Just whatever comes, just write it down, and we'll go through that later. But just allow yourself to allow spirit to ask, what is the doubt that this community is holding? And if nothing comes, that's perfectly fine. What is the doubt that Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living is holding? What is the doubt that Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living community is holding? Now we're going to go into the next step, which is to hold the doubt together as a community. So if you would like to unmute yourself and speak whatever it is that came for you, so we can all hold that together. I will start. I came up, what is lack? Is not enough. We don't have enough. Can't you hear? You can't hear? Or,
I think you can't hear because no one's speaking.
no, but he couldn't hear me. He couldn't hear me, I guess.
I can hear you.
Well, I got that up to my mouth.
Okay. What I got was the doubt that we can grow, the doubt that we're enough, and the doubt that we can grow and stay the same.
Thank you. Anybody else? Reverend Vaughan, did you get any?
I did the same as Stephanie. I only thought of the doubt that we can grow.
Okay. What did you say, Vaughan?
And when Reverend Vaughan was speaking, we couldn't hear him because he's still on mute.
Well, yeah, but he has to be on mute, otherwise we're going to get some feedback.
Okay.
But
Okay,
I will repeat what he says.
Okay.
Oh, his own personal relationship with money. That's a good one.
Mine were very similar to Stephanie's, lack of resources, and that growth will mean difference, and that we won't be able to keep the same community that we have.
My doubt was that the economy is trash and that small community equals small impact.
Okay, anybody else? Can't hear you, Jeffrey. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is down there. He's still on mute. I don't know what's going on.
There I go.
There you go.
When I first heard Michael say doubt, I thought manifest that the economy and other such things. And I thought, okay, we've learned what we need to learn from that. Now we're done with that. We can now move on. We learned from it. Let's move on from there. So, yeah, we have that. We can move on from it.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read these. And this will be part of the third step is we're going to take these, we're going to hear them. And if you want to speak them along, that's fine, or speak along, and release them. Release them into the automatic action of the law. Let them go. Kick them to the curb. Like Jeffrey just said, we're going to learn. We're going to hold these together and release them together. And so it's not enough. Can't grow. Grow and stay the same. Our own personal relationship with money. Grow means difference. The economy is crashed and trashed. And small community means small impact. And with Jeffrey's thought, we learn and we move on. And so now together we can just say we release these things. We let them go into the action of the law and allow it to do its thing. We know that we can move on from these doubts, these fears of being a small community, of not enough. And that being a small community means we can only make a small difference. We know this is not the truth of who we are. And so with that, I just invite us to release this, to let it go into the nothingness from where it came to where it may do some good. And so I release, I let it go, and we can all say, and so it is. And so now we will do the no, you're here somewhere. There you are. That's not what we want. Can you see that? Can you see that? Ah, good. We will do our declaration. We will share that 3 times. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And so it is. Now I'll trade places.
And Michael wanted you all to know that he will send that out.
Never gonna be a perfect time, never gonna be feeling just right. Can't let this moment pass me by. Never know when my world will change, never know when I'll get this chance again. Won't let this moment pass me by. I don't know how this story goes yet. I'm gonna trust, I'm gonna embrace all the uncertainty I will face. I'm gonna let go, not be afraid. Everything will fall right into place. I believe, I've got faith that anything is possible. I'm gonna trust, I'm gonna embrace all the uncertainty I will face. Oh yeah. Oh, never wanna waste worrying about anything that I can't change myself. Enjoy every step of the way. I gotta choose who I want to be, and let every day teach me I'm growing into every step on the way. I don't know how this story goes yet. I'm gonna trust, I'm gonna embrace all the uncertainty I will face. I'm gonna let go, not be afraid.
So I'm going to wait because I think Michael has restarted that song. Nope, there's the next one. Well, happy Memorial Day weekend. This is the official beginning of the summertime. Uh, as we are together today, uh, at the core council meeting, we were talking with Stephanie, and she's like, another week on doubt, another week on uncertainty. What angle is it this time? And the angle this time is communal uncertainty. And again, Stephanie was like, well, how is that different than community doubt? And what I want to lean into is that the difference is subtle, that communal uncertainty is how a community can come together and be together in the midst of what's uncertain. A lot of times, when people join like a religious group, they're joining because it's a place that's going to give them clear, direct answers. When I was growing up as a Roman Catholic, there was a very clear set of directions about how to be in the world. And these were the good ways to be in the world, and these were the not good ways to be in the world. And there was very little doubt. And this kind of certainty that gets presented is a draw, because in our individual lives, aren't there so many times when we find ourselves feeling uncertain? So if we can just kind of let go of that and just have a sense of, well, this is what I'm told, this is what the Old Testament says I should do, or, the Torah says I should do. This is what Jesus said I should do. This is what Buddha said I should do. This is what Muhammad said I should do. This is what all of these wise people said I should do. And there's something very soothing about being told what to do. There could be a sense of peace that emerges. Was rewatching an HBO version of his Dark Materials, which is the stories of the Golden Compass and the Subtle Knife and the Amber Spyglass. And there are a series of children, adolescent books which really looks at what's the nature of the soul, what's the nature of what it is to be alive. And this particular week, when we were watching one of the shows, one of the characters referred to her parents, and she was saying, you are completely different than my parents, because you can be with your uncertainty. You're not torn apart by your uncertainty. Your uncertainty helps you move forward. Whereas with my parents, they are so gung-ho about their certainty. They know exactly how they think the world should be, And they're willing to drag along anybody that they can to be with that. So think about it for a minute. When we have certainty, there isn't a lot of requirement to do much thinking. When we have certainty, there really isn't room for questions to come up. One of the things that I just want to pay attention to is that in the Hebrew and Jewish faith tradition, what emerged was a whole series of arguments. There was the good book, there was the Torah, but then there were commentators who shared about reflections on the Torah. And the reflections would look at the same thing and offer completely different perspectives. And in the Jewish faith, what they did is they brought both of those together. They let that vast array of possibilities be present, rather than wiping it all out and saying, this is just the way it is. Sit down, shut up, and just be with what is. And we're in a time where we have a lot of sit down and shut up. I don't know about you, but at least my observation of how our president and how his followers and how his uplifters and how his sycophants hold things is that, you know, it's like they're always commenting about how he's playing 5-dimensional chess. And it this is the guy that's falling asleep in the middle of meetings. This is a guy who can speak absolute nonsense, and people will be like, "Oh, wasn't that brilliant?" You remember the story of the emperor's new clothes? The whole town was gathered commenting about the glory and magnificence of the emperor's suit. But the tailors that were dressing the emperor had nothing on him. He was completely naked. And everybody's just wrapped up in praise about the amazing look of this suit. Except for one kid who's like, I don't see it, he's naked. When we can be more like the Jewish community, exploring the breadth of possibilities, we have a greater array of actions that we can follow. What uncertainty provides is a space for wonder, is a space for mystery. Because if everything is answered, what mystery is there? I'd like you all to just take a moment and consider something that fills you with a sense of wonder, that fills you with a sense of mystery. And when you have a sense of that experience, just give a little wave or give a little nod or acknowledge that. Okay, I've got a thumbs up from Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. Thumbs up from Jeffrey. Thank you, Jeffrey. And I'm getting a thumbs up from Michael. Victor, thank you. And Lisa, thank you. One of the things that I want to say about that experience of mystery or wonder, when you have that experience, do you find your life getting bigger or getting smaller? Michael is saying bigger. Something that always gives me a sense of wonder, always gives me a sense of awe, is whenever out of the blue I may see Mount Rainier. You can go for almost a season and not see it. And then it becomes present. The weather is just right. The angle, the view is just right, and you can see it. And in that moment, it is so enormous. One of the things that happened recently was that trip back going around the moon. And our newest set of astronauts went all the way around the dark side of the moon. And it's a part in history where humanity has never been. They could have all of these things scientifically prepared, but they prepared so that there could be this mystery about what's completely unknown. So what I want to speak to with respect to communal uncertainty is that when we share that, when we share in mystery, when we share in wonder, there's a space that's bigger. Howard Thurman wrote, "The moving finger of the divine in human history points ever in the same direction. There must be community. Always. In the collective consciousness and in the private will, this intent appears and reappears like some fleeting ghost. It is a fact that humankind fails again and again. But the sense of not being mistaken in the fundamental intention never deserts the final purpose or the judgment that is passed on all social behavior. When the hunger in a person's heart merges with what seems to be fundamental of intent with life, communion with the creator of life is not only possible, but urgent." I want to propose that an openness to uncertainty, an openness to mystery, an openness to awe and wonder expands us rather than shuts us down. So I have three things for us to think about. The idea of community as an experience of wholeness. The idea that uncertainty, in fact, rather than defeating us, pulls us together. And the fact that curiosity and uncertainty calls us collectively to action. So, wholeness within community, being pulled together by uncertainty, and how curiosity is a call to action. So with that first notion of communal wholeness, the divine is constantly pulling us towards community. People are here together in community. One of the things about Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living is that more happens when two or more are gathered. There's a greater capacity. If you take a moment and think about times in your life when you've been with others or when you've been alone, there are things that are possible in both settings that aren't possible in the other setting. I remember during my adolescence, I had this great sense of urgency to consider whether my fundamental nature exists as an individual or exists as a member within a community. And I don't know if this is something that anyone else has wrestled with, but it was a huge question for me throughout my adolescence. Part of that sense of individuality was the fact that I was a closeted gay boy, and I just felt so different than the places around me and then what I saw. Michael was watching something on Facebook the other day, and this gay person was talking about how growing up, he never had an exposure to romance that spoke to his experience. All of the stories were about how getting together with another person meant getting together with a man and a woman. There are lots of stories that are exclusive, that shut out possibilities. We live in a time, though, now, where there's an increasing number of stories that are inclusive, that are showing a broader prospect, broader arrays. Again, I remember growing up, really the first time that I saw people of color on television was The Cosby Show. And it normalized it for me. And then out of The Cosby Show, there were all kinds of other runoffs and spinoffs. And The Cosby Show wasn't the only one. There was Moving On Up, and there were things associated with that Norman Lear came out with. The Golden Girls, the content was for older women. Now, granted, they were all white women, but it was a demographic that hadn't been focused on. And it was a demographic with some surprises. You know, one of the characters, Blanche, is a very overtly sexualized person. And rather than having any shame about it, she is proud of herself. She is proud of what it is for her to be the way she is. So what happens when we think about community and we see it in a bigger picture than what's been presented to us? In community, we have a space where we can share doubts, a space where we can share uncertainty, a space where mystery can exist rather than seeking to wipe it out. And that leads me to our next point, that uncertainty can pull us together. we often think of it as tearing us apart. We live in a very divisive age right now. Some of you may know people that just absolutely adore our current president and things that he is promoting. And some of you may find it difficult to be gung-ho about that whole attitude and that orientation. What I would say is that may open a space of mystery. I find it mystifying that so many people, I mean, it's still about 30% that no matter what are just enamored with whatever this person does. Rather than pushing away that uncertainty, what happens when I open myself to it? Okay, there is a part of the population that is just so different from me. And how do I hold it with an appreciation when the orientation of that part of the population is all about wiping out divergence and difference, and is all about asserting certainty, all about that this is the right way to do things? I was listening to a woman on I think it was Facebook, and she was saying that we have not had a president before who has been silent, been not only silently supportive of the murder of U.S. citizens. We had those people in Wisconsin who were killed, and they were dispatched. They were dismissed as terrorists. No evidence, and the pursuit of justice for them has been delayed. And what I would say is that there has been this huge pulling together of folks. We've had these No Kings marches. We've had people come together now the way that they came together in protest in the 60s. Before I was old enough to really understand what was going on. There is a response to this uncertainty. There's a response to this. People are coming together. People have made clear that they really don't want to have a prison camp built in their community. That's collective doubt. Do I want a prison camp? I don't think I want a prison camp. I doubt that a prison camp is good. I have uncertainty about the goodness of the prison camp. So that uncertainty is pulling people together. And just as that uncertainty pulls us together, it pulls us together to move forward in action. One of the things about considering our doubts as a community is that it lets us move and take action. And it may also have us take a pause. The action may be to take a pause. Ernest Holmes described Jesus of Nazareth as the great exception, as the great example, rather than the great exception. A lot of Christian teachings lift Jesus up as some superhero, as some extraordinary, impossible being. And Ernest Holmes proposed that Jesus is an example that we can move towards. What if Jesus and the Buddha and Moses, what if Martin Luther King and Mother Teresa, who were all turned into heroic figures, what if they are examples that we can move towards, that we can set our own paths to follow them? One of the things that Jesus did on a fairly consistent basis when you read about Jesus is Jesus took time. How much time are we taking? We don't often hear about a hero who takes time. Heroism is all about demand. And don't we often feel like our lives are filled with demand? And in a world that worships certainty, fulfilling those demands is a way to meet the call to certainty. But taking time out to just be and contemplate and to consider are possibilities that we often don't consider. There's a section from the Torah that talks about the presence of the divine. And there's like this huge windstorm, but the prophet doesn't go in response to the windstorm. And there's this huge rainstorm, and the prophet doesn't go in response to the rainstorm. It's only when the divine is silent that the prophet finally knows that that's when the divine is calling. Sometimes what comes to us is the mystery of silence. What comes to us is the mystery of uncertainty. So, once again, I'm going to invite us to release the old habit of demanding certainty, to release the old habit of characterizing our doubt and our experience of uncertainty as some fatal flaw of the character that we are. And instead, to look at uncertainty as a gift of life for us to experience mystery, for us to experience awe and wonder. So my life work for folks this week is to just take some time and just be with those experiences that cause you to scratch your head, that leave you uncertain about the goodness of the world, that leave you uncertain about being a human with other humans. What has to change in each of us so that we have more space? I'm not saying that we join in and we lock people up. I'm not saying that we dismiss our differences, but I'm saying, how do we be present to those differences and find ways to make connections? So I have an affirmation. And Michael is looking for it. Yep. So please join me in repeating this 3 times. We welcome uncertainty as a path to wonder and mystery. We welcome uncertainty as a path to wonder and mystery. We welcome uncertainty as a path to wonder and mystery. And so it is. So thank you for folks on YouTube who joined us this week. I am grateful for your presence here, and I hope you have a great week. So take care. Goodbye. And I am going to stop the record.